you don't really come out the exact same person you went in. How do I put this? Basically, every day, morning, lunch, night, I was taking multiple bong rips, multiple dabs, anything. They're not bad people. That's just what they were doing, and
Sure.
I ended up doing it too.
Do you know why you progressed?
I think just because nothing had gone bad so far with weed or shrooms, I was like, might have a good time. Some of the people there were black tar heroin dealers or people who threatened to shoot up a school, and I was at that time there for smoking weed and skipping my zero period. Basically, they bring you down to your basic needs like food, water, sleep, and move. That's it. I don't think I've ever really thought about it. Like, what am I proud of myself for? For someone that's going through something like that doesn't care about themselves, I feel like the only thing that you can think about is how your life will affect others.
Hi, I'm your host, Jake Bennon, and welcome back to the Humanizing Success podcast, where we search for the meaning of success and try to show people's journeys on how they get there, where they're going, whether they're in the grind of it, whether they've reached some financial, some life success. So all aspects of life all along the way. And so today we have the pleasure of speaking with Chad Bennon, who is my brother. And it's funny because we spoke to David on his birthday, or the day after his birthday as well. So today's Chad's birthday. You are how old?
22 now.
22. How do you feel?
Same as I did last year.
Crazy how that is.
Yeah.
So the first question and the first topic that I usually go over with everyone is, when you think of someone who is successful, what are you picturing? What do you picture success as?
I feel like maybe a couple years ago I would have pictured something like what I see on Instagram or on YouTube. A lot of money, cars, something like that. More recently, and I feel like this is because I've taken on a lot more responsibility this year with moving out and paying for all my own bills. I feel like I see that as more as just being financially stable in myself and having something to call my own.
Yeah, for sure.
me, that's been my most recent point of view of success.
Okay, and so you think that has changed in the past year because you've taken on more responsibilities?
That, and also with these responsibilities and with the little that I have right now, I don't feel like I need much more, to be honest.
Ever, or what are we talking about?
I mean, in the
you
future,
mean more responsibilities?
not more responsibilities, more things.
Okay, gotcha.
Like, I just need a place, I need a car, and some extra money to spend, and I've been content with that for the past 8 months.
Okay, gotcha. And when you say you don't need any more, do you have the natural desire? Because there is a natural desire for more, and you're saying you don't need more things per se, but what more do you need in the picture for yourself? What do you see? Because you want, you obviously want to progress in some way in life. So what do you see as your progression?
I think the more would be a career, a job that I actually enjoy. And if that makes me more money, then great. But I feel like I just need a drive or a motivation.
So you want to find something you're passionate about, per se. Understandable. And do you want to have kids, or have you not thought about that at all? Or
I haven't actually put much thought into it. I'm not.
Is that not part of your, like, a wife, kids, the normal?
I'm not opposed to it in any way. I just haven't thought about it at all.
Gotcha. And so I want to give a little backstory of where you are, what your situation is. So you graduated high school a couple years ago now.
4 years ago.
Gotcha. And so you chose right after so you graduated high school.
So I graduated, and for the first 2.5 years, I was working for
Beautiful
my dad.
Voice crack.
Yeah, I love that one. I was working for my dad.
Doing what?
Processing loans. He's a mortgage broker.
Okay.
And basically did that, but not like...
What's his name?
He's your father.
That's my dad.
I didn't do it really full time. I kind of did it to pay rent because I was paying rent at my parents' house. and just a little bit of extra money, and I wasn't actually saving any of it. I was basically spending it faster than I could make it.
Yeah.
And I was never really searching for another job or even thought about moving out or any of that, but that also has some other factors that I'm sure we're going to get into soon.
Yeah, I hope so. So I guess the first topic, and that might relate to that. Topic 1. I wanted to talk about drugs.
Yeah.
What's your history? Because you've had a little history and have realized that maybe it wasn't as beneficial for you, or I guess you'll tell us, but how did that start? Where did that even come from?
I want to say it started sophomore year. I'd never done any drugs
15?
before that.
16, 15,
16, I think.
Okay.
15, somewhere around there. I'd never done any drugs before that.
Had you drank before that?
I had drank, but only a couple times, and I didn't really like it because every time I did, I just blacked out and ended up throwing up.
Okay.
But I tried weed for the first time in... actually, I take that back. The first time was freshman summer at camp.
Really?
Yeah. I want to say it was a wax pen.
Huh.
CIT summer. That's where I started
So
smoking.
from freshman summer until sophomore, or what was the gap in between that and the next time you smoked?
I was smoking, but I'd never done anything more than a wax pen.
Ah, gotcha.
And then the first time I hit a bong was on the A-Hill at Agora High School after school in one of my friend's cars, and that's kind of where it took off from there.
Where was your head at during this time? What guided you to? Who were you doing it with? Where was your head at? Why were you choosing to in the moment?
I want to say some of it was because of my friend group. There's another one. Some of it was because of my friend group and the people I was around, which they're not bad people. That's just what they were doing, and sure. I ended up doing it too. And the other part of it was that it just made me feel better. I used to, my coping used to be video games. I would basically get away from everything when I would play them, and I could smoke weed and still be functional and do my day-to-day things, like go to school, anything. It didn't seem to bother me.
Yeah.
And I could not have those feelings affect me.
What were you coping with?
Honestly, I don't know. Those last 2.5, 3 years of high school just blur together so much because I don't think, other than when I went to Outward Bound, there was probably not more than 24 hours where I wasn't high. Yeah.
Do you think they blend together because maybe you aren't quite at the point where you've been able to look back, like it's not far enough away that you've been able to look back and say, okay, this is where it started and kind of this is where it came from?
That could be it. It could be just that I haven't, I guess, internalized enough to see why that happened.
So I guess jumping a little bit, actually we won't jump. We'll get there slowly.
Skip and a hop.
So you started smoking weed. What was the progression of that? How quickly were you every day?
Sophomore year is when it started, at the beginning of sophomore year, and I would still hit a wax pen or take a puff of a joint every now and again. It was maybe once or twice a week I'd smoke. Junior year is where it really started getting more. I started smoking a lot more. Basically every day, morning, lunch, night, I was taking multiple bong rips, multiple dabs, anything. I was a very avid smoker at that point, and then end of junior year, I decided not to do baseball anymore, and not only just so I could smoke and not get drug tested, but just didn't feel like I
never
was
thought about that.
going anywhere with baseball. And then senior year, I didn't have any reason not to, other than school, which was a reason, but in my head it wasn't.
Do you feel like you felt like baseball wasn't going anywhere. Do you think the weed had an effect on your life and your, I guess, things you were doing outside of smoking at that time?
Yes, but not necessarily in the way that you'd expect. I think it just took my attention away from other things. If I hadn't been smoking, I probably would have paid more attention to what I wanted to do and what path that I needed to take to get there.
Yeah, and so, like you said before, you didn't really have to think, like, I don't know, maybe this is how you felt, but maybe the weed was sort of numbing like, you didn't have to face other things, and so.
Definitely numbing a lot.
And so you got, when did it progress into let me try other things?
When was the first time I did shrooms? So the next thing I did was shrooms, and
there's a lot of craze around shrooms these days.
Yeah. I still don't think shrooms are that bad.
Okay.
When I did them, they were great. I felt good on them, felt good after them. Made me a happier person.
In the moment.
Even after. Like,
okay.
It's there's like a come down after where you're really groggy the next day, but I don't know, you just feel better. You have like a haze about you. I think the first time I did it was at my friend Cedric's beach house in Malibu, and me.
Was that like a planned thing or just
I don't think so.
Okay.
I can't
Someone just
remember it specifically, but
someone just brought it.
Yeah. It was a fun night, just hanging out by the pool. And then that eventually escalated to, so I'm jumping a little bit here, probably 5 or 6 months, maybe a little bit longer later, I tried acid for the first time. And that was kind of a big jump.
Yeah.
Because I was perfectly content doing shrooms, and there wasn't really a need to go into a more powerful psychedelic.
Do you know why you progressed?
I think just because nothing had gone bad so far with weed or shrooms, I was like, might have a good time.
Yeah.
And I'm not really thinking too hard about it.
Right.
Into
There's
doing
not too
it.
much thought going on.
Yeah. And the first time I did it, it was great. I was in the right environment with the right people. And when you do acid, it kind of rewires your how you think and how you view the world. And coming out of that first trip, you don't really come out the exact same person you went in. I liked how I felt after it and how I looked at things. But then each time you do it again, it changes.
What was your experience on it?
Kind of the general experience. I took like half a tab, I think, the first time.
Okay.
Which, like, a tab's a normal dose.
Gotcha.
And
like seeing
just,
things or
not seeing things that aren't there, but like things. I specifically remember this one like rubbery, like cat litter box that was like spongy, and it just started moving like in and out like it was breathing, like it was a living thing, or like looking at the TV, like a music video we were watching. Like those images just stay in my head even to this day.
And so when you say you had a perspective change, you were almost a different person. Are you having like thoughts about the world, or like what's changing?
In the moment, no, you're not really thinking about much, and after you realize kind of how vague and mundane your thoughts are on it. But then I'm talking about after. So yeah. After, like maybe a couple days after you, I don't know if it seems from an outside perspective that you've changed, but in your mind you feel like something has changed. And where I was going with the perspective change and like how your thoughts change, the last time I ever did acid was at my girlfriend at the time's house, and I did it at like 1 a.m.
Was there like a group
Everyone was asleep. It was just me.
You just did it alone?
Alone. In a dark room.
That sounds depressing.
It didn't end up well. I was very paranoid at the start, and I thought I was going in taking a half a tab, but it was a gummy, so you can't really bite half the gummy, and it turned out most of the acid was dripped on that side. So I had a crazy experience. I had never, I had heard of anxiety and never had experienced it before and didn't think I ever would. And then on that acid trip, I had like my first anxiety attack ever, which isn't a good thing to have when you're tripping and no one knows you're tripping.
Sure.
So you're kind of going through this thing alone, and it just kind of multiplies and multiplies how bad your trip gets. So by the end of it, I was curled up in a ball, sweating on the bed, just like didn't know what was happening to me. Thought I was going to die for like 8 hours.
I was going to say, do you know how long it was? 8 hours?
Somewhere around there. Yeah, it was not a good time. And that led to me coming home, my parents finding out, and
Wait, how did that happen?
How did mom and dad find out?
Yeah.
My girlfriend at the time's mom told them, as she should have.
How did she know?
Because they're a pretty chill family, so I'm assuming that my girlfriend at the time told her mom.
Gotcha.
I believe so.
That you had,
because
like,
I was
experience
freaking
or
out at
something?
the house.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. No, I was not okay.
Okay, so
It was very evident.
They
that
found
something was
out.
wrong. Yeah.
And what was their first?
I thought they were going to be super pissed, which I'm sure they were inside, but they just wanted to make sure I was all right. And for a couple days, I was not in the best of ways. I thought I was actually going crazy for like 2 or 3 days.
What does that mean?
Just a constant. I don't know how to explain this feeling. A constant feeling in my chest, a tightness that, like, never goes away. You feel like you're never gonna be normal. My vision was like shaky and blurry for like 3 days. I couldn't form like steady thoughts. It was not a good time.
Yeah, and so looking back on that, I guess, why? So do you think you had a bad experience because of the environment you were on?
Yes.
Or sorry,
I
environment you were
did it
in?
in the wrong place with no one around me, for no reason, basically. Usually I'll have a reason to do it and to go into it.
Gotcha.
And that's kind of the thing with psychedelics. You need to have an intention when you do it, and you need to be in the right environment with the right people. And I broke all the rules.
Gotcha. So from the outside looking in, to me, when you're telling me these, like the story leading up to it, it doesn't sound like you were in the best headspace leading up to it.
No, probably not.
Okay.
I didn't really have a plan for my life at that point. I was kind of just going with the flow. And I mean, for some people it works out, but it's not a path that you would like to be down. It's not something that's stable or that's like livable for a while.
So what's your opinion on weed, psychedelics now, looking back?
I don't like have a different opinion of them. I just know that I don't need them. I don't want them.
Okay, so they're not for you?
Yeah.
Gotcha. And do you feel like, because I kind of get the sense that there was no sort of thought of how much to be done or should I be doing this every day? So like everything in the right amount, do you think that's something to...
For some people, yes, but I have a very addictive personality.
Okay.
So even like things that are good for me, I will do too much.
Like what?
You're putting me on the spot here. Usually it's not things that are good for me, but I just have an addictive personality in general. So I don't...
Do you think you could have known that before? beforehand?
Not necessarily, because I had never done something that I could get addicted to.
So you don't look back and be like, oh, I was kind of like showing signs that I maybe.
No, and I don't think I was ever addicted to weed or shrooms or LSD, because I stopped with basically no, other than the anxiety attack, no reason. The anxiety attack on acid, which, I mean, that's a reason, but
Well,
I could have just
think
gone
there's
back.
I think there's a, and maybe I'm wrong, but I think there's a stigma of addiction that you can't stop. But if you don't stop and
I
it's
just
not
don't
helping
think,
you,
I,
then
I don't think I ever had a reason to stop.
okay.
In my head, I never, um, and not to say there weren't reasons, I just don't think in my head I had a reason, because there was definitely my family and my parents um, wanting the best for me and wanting me to stop. But that wasn't enough in my head.
Gotcha. So do you feel like you were in this almost kind of cycle or circle of uh, maybe not in the best headspace? Okay, let's go numb it, and then
Yeah, and there was no end to it, because at a certain point when I was smoking, being high felt more normal than being sober.
right.
So whenever I got sober, there was like oh, I don't like this. Let me go smoke. And it took some getting used to being back to normal. But once you do get back to being sober, you realize how much better life is.
Yeah, I can imagine. Um, I had a question,
Sorry.
but then you said something that was interesting, and I forgot the question. So that's okay. So I wanted to talk about fear. What is how does fear play a role in your life? If it does, do you think it can be a good thing? Is it only a bad thing? Yeah.
Um, I want to say it plays a pretty big role in my life, or at least it used to more than it does now. Um, After the acid incident, I was getting frequent anxiety attacks. I couldn't go in a car. I couldn't go outside and be normal with my friends. There was just so many things that um, realistically wouldn't do anything to me,
Yeah.
but inside my head I had something that not even blocked me from doing it. When I would go and force myself to do these things, I would feel so bad, and like my mind would make my body sick.
Right.
But I think fear used to play a giant part in my life, and only recently I've gotten better at it. Like, I didn't think, even where I am right now, which is working a 9 to 5, 40 hours a week, and living in my own apartment, I didn't think that was even possible for me for 2 years or a year and a half after that happened.
Yeah.
So,
Have you looked back and are you proud of yourself?
I am, but at the same time, I tend to compare myself to others. So it seems like, oh, you should have been doing this.
I get that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something I feel like everyone does, at least on a little bit, but I have realized that as well more recently, that it's something that's a big problem that I have.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think it can be pretty toxic and I mean, just demoralizing. So
Yeah.
it's good that you realize that. And I remembered what I was going to ask before.
Shoot.
How do you feel like the drugs affected your relationships?
That's a big one.
Family, friends, girlfriend at the time, whatever.
Yeah. Definitely negatively.
Okay.
I want to say when I started smoking, I started growing further apart from you and Alina, and started resenting mom and dad for them not wanting me to do it.
Okay.
And it definitely put a strain on my relationship at the time. Because there was no, like, how do I put this? When I was dating my girlfriend then, she wasn't just dating me, she was dating me and the me on drugs.
Right.
So there was like, I honestly don't know how she put up with me for that long.
She wasn't just getting you all the time.
Yeah, I was pretty much towards the end of our relationship, I was pretty much a burden. And I realized that.
It's pretty big.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that's just for you, or do you feel like you've noticed your friends or maybe anyone that you've seen who consistently either smokes or does whatever, like, do you notice a pattern in it affecting their lives in different aspects?
With everything but weed, yes. I have most of my friends still smoke constantly, and they're progressing either. I don't want to say it the same as me because I took a while, but
Oh, you don't need to compare it.
they're progressing.
Okay.
And they're doing things with their life, and they, I want to say, have their own limitations for what they'll do and how they'll do it.
And does it bother you being around smoking now?
Not at all. Like, I still love the smell, and I'll like roll my friends' joints, but I won't hit it.
Does that take, like, do you feel the want to at all?
No, because I know how it's gonna make me feel.
So do you almost feel against, like, no, I would never do that now?
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
It's a weird switch up.
Yeah, I mean, good for you that you figured it out like that. And so today, what are you struggling with as far as being afraid of doing something? Like, how does fear today, what is it stopping you from doing per se something you want to do that you notice?
Honestly, I haven't had much time to think about anything recently. I've been just so focused on making rent, basically.
Is that a good thing?
I mean,
Like,
it's
as
a
far
good
as
thing
having
that
your
I'm
focus
taking the
on-
responsibility seriously, but it's also not a good thing that it's the only thing that's on my mind every day.
Okay. And so when you realize that, does that make you think you need to change something or adjust your lifestyle? Or when you realize something's not how you want it, I'm saying, what does that make you, what do you think?
I feel like I'm still at the point where I kind of ignore it until something needs to be done, whereas I'd like to be at the point where I will do something before I get to that point.
Preventative.
Because that point is never fun.
Yeah. And what do you think that will take?
I'm not sure, because
Have you noticed that before then now?
like getting to that point and
No,
doing
that
something
just
about
that
it.
you react versus prevent.
Yeah, I've noticed that. I feel like it's me getting somewhat back to my old mindset where I just I'm really good at looking at myself from a third person point of view.
Okay.
And seeing what's wrong, but then never doing anything about it.
I think a lot of people are like that, to be honest. I think a lot of people know what's wrong, or know, like, at least maybe if they're not actively thinking about it, know in the back of their head.
Yeah, I don't know if it's that I don't want to admit it to myself and that would be me doing something about it, or if it's that I just don't care enough.
I mean, regardless, it's very difficult to admit something like that maybe you're not doing the things that you would if you were building a person, or,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, would want them to be doing. I have the same thing every day. Like, either once or twice a day, I'll be on my phone when I'm supposed to be working, and I'm like, I think about it right after or in the moment, and I'm like, you're gonna not like yourself afterwards. But a lot of times I don't win that decision, and
Yeah.
I cave to the phone. So the phone is definitely something that affects me in that way right now. Do you feel like something else has taken over that addictive personality for you now? Or have you sort of managed to...
I don't think something else has taken over. I just don't think I've given myself the opportunity to get back into that.
And so do you think you found, let's say something did come up that would adhere to your addictive personality, do you think you found a way to recognize it and deal with it, or are you not there quite yet?
I would honestly say no, because really the reason I kicked weed and psychedelics was because of how they made me feel, and realizing that I couldn't function as a normal human being if I did any of those things.
Yeah.
And it got to a point where I was just like, okay, I'm done. So I don't have the
You haven't worked
the
back
formula
through it in your mind.
Yeah, of how I'm going to do that without getting to the breaking point.
Right. Do you think you will face another challenge like that again?
Probably.
Potentially, if you aren't to go back through it?
Just in general?
Yeah, in general, do you think there will be something that sort of, if you don't choose to go back and say, how did I get there?
Do you think I'll get to another breaking
point?
Right. Yeah. Probably. Because if I've learned anything from quitting weed once before, it's that if I don't learn from my mistakes, I'll repeat them again.
Yeah, and I think it's not just learn from your mistakes, but learn how to handle the emotions that come along with why I made the mistakes. And there's so much more to that, and I'm figuring this out as I go.
But it's just put simply.
Right, exactly. And it really frustrates me a lot of times. People talk about things on podcasts and everywhere else, and they say things very simply, and there's just so much more. And of course they're talking about the more, but they're not saying it verbally.
Yeah, there's a lot more behind it.
Right. And so a lot of times, at least for me, I would hear these ideas and be like, oh, it's just, it's that simple. It's this or that, and why can't you get a hold of it? And for me, because I had to break it down and break myself down, and there's a whole bunch of other things that go along with that. And maybe you don't have an answer to this right now, but looking back, in a general sense, not specifically with your type of problem, but how does someone deal with, what are the steps to dealing with something that is hurting your life and that you want to get better, but are in the shit right now?
So I would say there's two examples of those. There's ones that you can actively look at and say, this is what's going wrong and I can do something about it. But as far as drugs go, sometimes you alone can't do it.
Sure. Well, I don't think even the other way. I don't think a lot of times you can do it, but what I've also learned is people are supposed to be with people and talk to people, and it makes it so much easier, especially because you realize usually that you're not the only one going through something like that.
Especially when you're going through something like that, one of the most common thoughts is, no one understands me and I'm going through this alone, which it's so cliche, but it's never true. Never true.
Yeah. There's been enough people on this earth that at least one person usually has faced that problem before.
Yeah.
Usually many. But so you think the first step is reflection and sort of realizing that it is a problem? Because a lot of times things are happening and we just say, oh, it's just how I am, or it's just what's going on. I just have some back pain. But
I wouldn't say realizing it's a problem. I would say realizing why it's a problem for you. Because it could just be a problem, but you might not have a problem with that problem, if that makes any sense.
No, it didn't. At least I didn't get it. Maybe they got it.
Say someone else thinks that what you're doing is a problem,
okay,
but you just don't care about it. Then it doesn't matter to you. It's not a problem to you.
Gotcha. So
it would
problems
have to,
that other people maybe think are problems for you aren't problems for you.
Sometimes, and sometimes it takes you understanding why it's a problem for you, and not just it being a problem for you.
But do you think the why comes after the what? Because a lot of times I've also realized that whether it's pain, emotion, whatever, our bodies are very, very good at signaling us.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it starts with very minor, like just being more moody, and then, oh shit, I'm like, I have some things I need to pay off, or that's where my anger towards my girlfriend was coming from, or the way I spoke to that person. That's why I did that. Like things lead into other things. So, do you think it's like identifying the what? Oh shit, that just happened, and then going to why?
Yes, but at the same time, it's accepting the what, because I knew what the problem was when I was smoking and doing drugs. I just didn't care.
So what makes you care? Like, because I've also felt that way, and I felt that way about certain things. Like, oh, and I feel like, at least for me, I oftentimes didn't care to protect myself, so that I couldn't be hurt. Because if you don't care, you can't be hurt.
Yeah.
So, I think I did that with relationships, with, like, up until my most recent one. I cared about the people, but not enough to where if they cheated or anything happened, like, I would be hurt. So, why do you think you didn't care?
Probably because a problem that was serious never came of it, or at least that I thought was serious. And until I actually felt that this has to stop, and like, this is, I might not live through this, it didn't change my mindset about it. Because there was a point in time where I was like, I don't know if I will make it.
So if someone's listening to this right now and they know in the back of their head that they've got things that they're doing that are hurting them, hurting their relationships, hurting their life, do you have any advice for them? Because what you're saying is maybe that some people just need to go through their journey.
Yeah.
Which is true, but at the end of the day,
that journey doesn't end out well.
Right.
For someone that's going through something like that, that doesn't care about themselves, I feel like the only thing that you can think about is how your life will affect others. That's kind of the only thing that you're thinking. That's the only thing that's keeping you here. And that's one of the most important things. So you basically need to find people that care about you. And if they care about you enough, you will care about them. And in turn, you'll want to...
care about yourself?
Not care about yourself, but you'll want to, in a weird way, do this for them and not even for yourself.
Okay. Do you think that a setting change, or like a perspective change, as far as seeing that maybe someone's in a worse, oh shit, this guy's in a worse situation, like maybe I am lucky and have some things to care about, or have some things to...
Maybe for some people. For me, it didn't really change anything.
What do you think you did? Do you feel like you had that?
When I went to Outward Bound, yeah.
Okay.
So for some context,
Yeah.
Junior summer, my parents sent me to basically a wilderness rehab where we did 28 miles in the Boundary Waters over...
What was the premise of the camp? What was the goal of the camp?
Basically to get me to quit smoking.
Well, it wasn't for you. What's the idea of the camp? Like, why does the camp exist?
To rehabilitate youths, basically.
Okay. Through, like, physical activity?
Yeah, being out in the wilderness. Basically, they bring you down to your basic needs, like food, water, sleep, and move. That's it. And we did 120-something miles in the Boundary Waters in Minnesota and Canada over 28 days. And I was there with, I want to say 8 or 9 people, and then 2 counselors. And some of the people there were black tar heroin dealers or people who threatened to shoot up a school. And I was, at that time, there for smoking weed and skipping my 0 period.
Right.
So it gave me a little bit more...
on paper.
Yeah, but I hadn't done any psychedelics yet.
Yeah, but your head, you weren't, like we said before, you maybe weren't in the right...
No, definitely
headspace.
But on paper, that was why I was
there.
So it gave me a little bit of perspective on that I am a little privileged, and this is all that's happening to me right now.
Yeah.
Um,
Maybe your world isn't ending.
yeah, and I don't regret going to that place, and it taught me a lot about myself, but it didn't stop me from smoking.
It didn't solve the immediate
yeah, the
problem.
day I came back, I was back to
Well,
smoking.
it may have been part of it.
Maybe it might have been, but
Yeah.
I don't think I've realized that yet or seen why.
Sure. And I mean, a lot of times we look back years later and we're like, okay, that was part of the journey, and maybe it wasn't going to happen right there and then. But
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. So I had another topic, which was family, but we sort of already covered that. I think we're actually, yeah, we're doing pretty good on timing. So my final question, which I think I'm going to start asking to everyone,
Mm-hmm.
is what are you most proud of in life so far?
It's a weird question. Not weird, but I don't think I've ever really thought about it. Like, what am I proud of myself for?
Yeah.
Um,
I think we a lot of times skip over that too.
yeah. And I don't know if it's like to not feel conceited in any way or.
It's hard for people to focus on the good things that have happened in their lives, because
Yeah.
then it means like a lot of people, at least for me, I feel like, oh, then I'm accepting my situation and I can't get, like, I don't want any better. You know what I mean?
Probably just in the last year or 8 months or 9 months, just making progress, like moving forward. I was stuck in the same place for 2.5 years at home, doing nothing productive, basically just hanging out. And now that I'm like progressing, it's not that it's easy, but I feel like there's some purpose in my life, as opposed to when I was stuck at home. I felt like I didn't really have anything to live for.
And who knows what'll happen in a year,
Yeah.
where this podcast will be. But I wanted to ask, piggybacking on the what do you see success as,
Mm-hmm.
in a year from now, today on your birthday, what's one thing that you hope would be a goal or something that you want to happen for yourself?
Not sure. Maybe what were we talking about earlier? Where we were saying that maybe I haven't internalized it enough to realize it.
Like figuring out why you went to smoking?
Yeah, why?
So I get
Figuring out what made me stop, other than. So I would probably say I'd want to figure out what made me stop smoking and stop doing drugs, other than the fact that it wasn't good for my health and that it didn't feel good. There had to be some sort of mindset change that I haven't thought about.
So kind of diving into your story a little bit and
Yeah, because
asking the
I mean,
whys.
I don't think it's very. I don't think about it a lot because it's not a great time in my life.
Yeah, I mean, for most people, thinking about the past is difficult, especially in that circumstance. Yeah. So it's the hardest thing that I've had to do is look back and realize that there's shit wrong with me, and still is. But like you were saying, learning from the past is important.
So maybe just in a simpler way, be more comfortable with who I am and what I've done in the past, and not only accept that, but figure out why and what I can do to not repeat that.
Sounds good. So something I started 2 podcasts ago is word association to close it out, which has been interesting.
I suck at this.
You see Darrell's?
No.
He gave me his whole Chipotle order. Okay. All right. So the first one, and so do you understand that you just need to give me like a word or 2 words or something like that? So the first one is success.
Progress.
Drugs.
Bad.
Addiction.
Bad.
Fitness.
I can't think of a word. I don't want to say good.
So don't say good. Think about it.
Hard.
Fitness hard. Okay. Calf raises.
What are they?
Okay. Perfect. That's it. Unless you had another one you wanted to speak about.
No.
Sounds good.
I think that's it.
So thank you for being here.
Yeah.
It's
Thanks
your
for having
birthday.
me.
You were doing some crazy things, I'm sure. So.
Oh yeah. Work was
Even
crazy
today. On the grind. So hopefully we'll be able to check in about a year and see if you're able to look back a bit and kind of go over that with you. But thanks for being here. And do you want to put your social media?
I don't care.
So it's probably Chad Bennett.
Yeah, Chad
It's
Bennett on Instagram.
And you guys can find the podcast if you're seeing this on Instagram or TikTok as a social clip. You can find it on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, all those major streaming platforms. And we upload every Friday. So I look forward to the next one. And stay delusional, because success comes when you least expect it. That was sick.